Good evening. Welcome to Alice's Domestic Violence 101, I suppose. As I have posted before, there have been continuous issues with exchange points between my abuser and my children, and with the quarantine, there has been a rise in domestic violence calls and occurrences of domestic violence, which is what I would have expected and assumed. For me personally, it means that I have to see my abuser, Mark Bryan, more times than I would care to, because our exchange points are several times a week. So because of the holiday and because of spring break that the kids are on right now, it means I've had to see him about 7 times this week. Yesterday he was to take them for spring break. Of course, I am back again today because I get them for Easter morning. A whole different issue. But yesterday during our exchange, the girls and I were at our parking lot of our traditional exchange point waiting for Mark Bryan, and we were laughing and chatting and having a good time, and the girls got out of the car and we were waving and blew kisses, and I was embarrassing them and they were laughing and giggling. As I backed out of the parking space to leave, Mark leaned over Aoife and gave me the middle finger, waving it wildly around, calling me a fucking bitch and a fucking cunt. I drove out of the parking lot thinking, I'm not sure if I really want to call on this one or not, because of the perception that I get from police officers. But I thought, I really do have to document all of these things, because that's just really egregious and there was no reason for it. So I called the Seattle Police Department, and the operator, who was really quite kind, had said that they were only issuing police officers to respond if it was a life or death situation. And I said, I completely understand. I will just make sure that I document it very closely so that should I go into court, I have documentation that this occurred. Well, then she proceeded to say, well, and my supervisor said that it's okay for him to do that because he has the freedom of speech. Well, at that point, I sat back and I said, whoa, you need to hold on a minute. And she said, well, it is freedom. I said, you need to stop for a moment. I don't mean to be disrespectful. And I explained to her that I didn't want to be contrary, but she needed to understand what it was like from a domestic violence victim's perspective. And so I laid it out for her that if it were someone on a street corner that was telling me to fuck off, that's one thing. And they were waving their finger and calling me names. I don't know them, so it's not personal. And I would just wave it off and move on. But when it's someone who has tried to kill me, who's threatened me, who has hurt me, who has hurt my children, and they're doing what they're not supposed to be doing, especially when I have a protection order that says that he's supposed to be non-confrontational during these exchanges. That's why he was allowed these exchanges. And he continues to be confrontational and to intimidate and harass. That, I said, that is a violation of the protection order, and that's why I've called. So she checked back with her supervisor, and the supervisor then said, okay, we'll send someone to take a report. So I turned around and came back to our exchange point at that Mark had left with the girls, and I waited for the police officer, and amazingly it didn't take hours. It only took about 10 minutes, I think, for the response. And it was like the domestic violence fairies were looking out for me, and they sent off an officer who I have worked with before and is phenomenal. If there's anyone who's well versed in domestic violence, it would be this officer for the Seattle Police Department. He's amazing, and he took it seriously, and he wrote a report, and I think he was going to contact Mark as well. So my point being is that as a victim, it is important that you stand up for yourself, that you fight for your cause, because a lot of times people don't understand, or they don't want to understand, or they have a stereotype or a perception of how it should be. And you have to stand up and you have to say, that is not right. That is not my truth. That is not going to work for me. And you have to push. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, and it takes a lot of energy, and it's exhausting. Today I have been tired, and as you can see, I've been sleeping all day. It's depressing. Knowing that I have to see him again today is stressful for me. But I at least feel like I have the support of the police department. And so I wanted to share that with you, because it's, again, we're talking 6 years after the original order was issued, and I'm still dealing with a man who wants to hurt me, and that's what abuse is about. Domestic violence offenders can't be rehabilitated. They can't change, they can't mature out of it, it tends to escalate and it tends to get worse with age and time, in my experience. So, you know, it's just part of my life, and it's part and parcel of what I have to contend with as long as the children go between the two houses or the two homes. So, anyway, it seems so insignificant to talk about someone telling me to fuck off, because it seems like such a minor play school, play yard incident. But because the connotation behind that is that those are the triggers that would occur before he would abuse. And so to have to see that and hear that again triggers me into a point of having to relive the abuse that I experienced at his hands. And that's not something I would wish on anyone. But anyway, so I can only hope that this exchange is without incident, although I do know that the police would help if I need them to. Anyway, I know we're all having a rough time with the quarantine, and we're struggling, but hopefully you are with people or can communicate with people that love you and treat you with respect and kindness, and that's the best that I could hope for and wish for anybody. All right, take care. Thank you. Bye.